it's not only disheartening, it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, we can't keep trying to appease, you know, moderates and right wings. Like, you got to address the issues where they're at, and the Democratic Party continues to refuse to do that.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hi, I'm Tina-Desiree Berg reporting for Status Coup News. We are currently at the Nevada Fight the Oligarchy campaign that is being taken across the country by Bernie Sanders and AOC. You are a volunteer here. What is your name?
My name is Deepika Bhandari.
We now have a billionaire, Elon Musk, who has been given an unbelievable amount of power in the government. He is, you know, pretty much dismantling big chunks of the federal government even as we speak. I think he's getting ready to dissolve the Department of Education, which is, by the way, completely unconstitutional and illegal. He's not allowed to do that, but that doesn't mean he won't. My question, though, is this, on that subject. We now see Republicans at town halls also angry, right? These are many bridges too far for even the Republican voters, but they're being carried out of the Republican town halls. They're being shut down by their elected officials. So it seems that neither party is listening to their constituents. Do you think that's a game changer, the fact that the Republicans are also angry now?
I think it'll be a game changer if we're able, again, to take advantage of the situation and use that to our leverage in terms of mobilization and organization, because being angry is important. Awareness is key. Being angry is important, but that's not enough. You need to channel and mobilize that energy. So if there's a way that we can do that locally, I think that will be the pushing point. That will be the catalyst towards like real change, because, you know, a lot of times like people get angry and then it kind of fizzes out, you know. I don't want to be the person to be like, oh, things are going to get worse before they get better, but that's probably the case here. And maybe they do have to get a lot worse before, like, once it starts hitting your pocketbook, once it starts hitting, like, really affecting your life, that's when people are, you know, people are busy. That's when they feel motivated to actually make a difference.
So let's talk about the current state of the Democratic Party today. How are you feeling about Chuck Schumer and what he just did? How are you feeling about guys like Gavin Newsom having Steve Bannon on his podcast? Like, what's happening here?
Again, I'm not surprised, unfortunately, because I've seen this play out for the last 10 years since I've been following politics more closely, specifically the Democratic Party. It's not only disheartening, it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, we can't keep trying to appease, you know, moderates and right wings. Like, you got to address the issues where they're at, and the Democratic Party continues to refuse to do that. I just hope that, and I think it's happening, I hope that more and more people are waking up and seeing the truth for what it is, seeing that the party is not necessarily going to come and save us. The party doesn't necessarily have our backs. We need to push the party, or just we need to push the people in our government to we need to force them to make a change. I mean, I know our own senators have been, you know, I think in the last, in the vote for cloture, for this bill, I think one of our own senators voted for it. A Democrat, I think Senator Masto, and I'm just like, everyone's kind of just fed up of this sort of like appeasement style politics, and a lot of it is just to protect their own interests. So, you know, I'm hoping that more and more people wake up. We see that, you know, the party's not going to come and save us. It's essentially, in my opinion, it's two sides of the same coin, right? The Democratic and Republican Party, not necessarily individuals within those parties, but the parties themselves.
It's systemic.
It's systemic. These are systemic issues. They bleed into our local and state politics as well. So I'm hoping that we can kind of start here from the ground up. More people can kind of realize that this isn't going to fly. You know, our society is going to continue to crumble if we keep playing these games.
Right. And who do you see as the next generation of Democratic Party leadership? Not elected officials, but people that are truly like the voice of the people. Bernie Sanders is getting a little bit older now. It's time for him to maybe pass the baton, so to speak. Who do you think is that next generation? Who would you put on that list?
Do you think, in like federal politics or anybody?
In the movement, yeah.
In the movement, I mean, of course, the first person that kind of comes to mind is AOC, right? She's kind of at the, we'll see today, she's kind of at the front seat. She's doing some great things. But I think that more than relying on people like AOC, which she's incredibly important, I think young people, local activists, students especially,
that sounds pretty good up here. And while we're at it, we cannot maintain a federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $17 an hour. And we, all over this country, workers know that if you want decent wages and benefits and working conditions, you got to join a union. And all over this country, corporations are making it harder and harder for workers to join unions. And that's why we need to pass legislation that I just introduced called the PRO Act, that penalizes any employer that acts illegally when workers are trying to form a union. Together, we're going to stop the cuts to Social Security. Instead of cutting Social Security, we're going to expand Social Security benefits.
The progressive wing of the Democratic Party here was able to sort of fill all the seats with progressives, and there was some backlash from the establishment Democratic Party here on that, and I feel like maybe they sort of abandoned the state at a certain level. Was Trump winning the election this time a shock for you?
Unfortunately for me, it wasn't a shock nationwide, but it was a shock for me to see how quickly we flipped here in Nevada, and specifically in Las Vegas, because we had a lot of support, especially from the Hispanic community when Bernie was running here. We were very leaning heavily, I think, more blue. I know we're a purple state, but we were more blue kind of just a few years ago, and that was a huge breakthrough for us. But I didn't expect to see the whiplash in the way that we saw here, but I guess it's not surprising. When I think one of the biggest the biggest voter bloc that was that converted right from like Democrat or Bernie or left leaning to Trump for this particular general election was Latino men, young Latino men, and there are a lot of young Latino men here that I know personally. A few years ago, they were all about Bernie, and then I think they went over to Trump, and I think they've just been following a lot of right-wing media, a lot of podcasts, a lot of things. I think it's kind of it's interesting, and it's kind of sad to see the trajectory, but. We'll see now what happens, with the administration doing what they're doing right now. There may be some regret, there may be some more organizing, and we're hopeful that we can take advantage of that and use that to our leverage.
Right. So I remember being at the Bellagio caucus, actually. I was here covering that in 2019, and it was amazing because I'd say 82% of the room went to the Bernie Sanders corner from jump. It was just, and it was mainly union people from the culinary union that were pushing for that. So I have to be honest with you, I was a little stunned about this kind of flipping that happened in the capacity that it did. But I do think that the Democratic Party is partially to blame for that in the sense that they sort of abandoned state level politics in the state. I think that they failed to address income inequality in a meaningful way that contributed to this. And of course, there's this thing you're talking about where a lot of young men are being radicalized by a very biased right-wing media like Charlie Kirk and whatnot. So that's definitely part of the conversation as well. So what's next for you? What do you think needs to happen in the movement to just actually change some stuff here in the state?
That's a great question. I think the answer right now is really going hard in on community, for us to kind of start organizing locally. Like, for example, I've been trying to tell my friends in different circles. I'm a rock climber as well, so I go climbing out here in Red Rock. And I've been trying to kind of bring awareness to, for example, the recent elections at REI. You know, how they've kind of blocked out other candidates that are actually trying to reform the company, trying to actually advocate for the outdoors.
Explain who REI is for folks.
Sorry, REI is a co-op. They're a company. They sell outdoor gear, and they're nationwide. And they started off.
So is a co-op meaning that's owned by the workers or the people that shop there? Like, how does that?
That's a great question. I think co-op essentially means that like the members have a share, or like they have a stake in making decisions for like board members. That's my understanding.
Okay.
But they're still a company. You know, they still sell. They still sell gear, and they've kind of gone super corporate-y. They've been union busting for the last few years, especially. They've been cutting workers' pay and hours. They've been doing a lot of shady things, and just recently, the CEO endorsed Trump's pick, like for the secretary for the Department of Interior, who's a big gas guy. He's like a big oil and gas guy, and it's a total conflict of interest because he wants to dismantle places like Red Rock Canyon and other public spaces, other public like federally managed land. And so I've been trying to tell the climbing community, look, if you keep supporting companies like REI, that's a direct conflict of interest. I'm trying to go, instead of going like the political route, right? I'm trying to be like, this is going to affect you. We won't be able to climb here anymore if, you know, if companies keep supporting the administration or people like this that are trying to sell off private, you know, public land. So, I think starting with awareness on that level and kind of mobilizing people to kind of especially pick and choose where they put their money, especially local dollars, keeping money in the community rather than supporting chains and things like that. I think that's a great place to start. And just, you know, kind of looking at mutual aid, kind of looking at charities and organizations and supporting each other, especially if the federal government is in shambles, and kind of going from there, like hopefully truly a grassroots movement, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tina. I really appreciate it.
Right on.